city's being torn apart. I don't know if I'm strong enough to save it.
Do I have what it takes to protect the people I love? You never gave up.
Never back down.
Neither will I. This is my power.
My responsibility. I am Spider-Man.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
I'm Adam.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. And on today's episode, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be taking a look at our first ever video game on the channel. We're going to be taking a look at Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Miles Morales return for an exciting new adventure in the critically acclaimed Marvel Spider-Man franchise. Adam, it's a milestone. We're doing our first ever video game review on the channel. I'm sorry if you all are super confused at home and are like, what the hell are you guys doing? You guys talk about movies, not games. We're trying something new, you know?
I'm just as confused as they are.
I know, I am too. And I told Adam, like, let's just talk about I beat Spider-Man. And for those at home, I'm a casual gamer, right? I'm not like the super hard. I wish I was a hardcore gamer. I do like to jump in and play things. I don't really complete much. It's kind of my thing. I'm sorry. It's a failure at life that I have. But Spider-Man 2, I did go through. I completed. I got the Platinum Trophy by accident. And shamefully, it's my first ever Platinum Trophy that I ever got on my PS5. I know, for shame, this guy. It is what it is, okay? But I did beat the game, and I had a lot of thoughts on it. And as a huge Spider-Man fan, I was really excited to talk about this. Adam, what did you think of this one? Now, you, for some context, you played Spider-Man and then the Miles Morales. You played both of those?
Yep.
Okay.
Platinum, both of those as well.
Platinum, both of those. Excuse me. So what are your thoughts? Let's start with just some of your early thoughts on this. How do you think it stacks up to this, and what it brought to the table here?
I originally, before the game had actually come out, I saw like a little blurb, a mini review real quick that, because I was obviously super excited for the game because I loved the first one and the Miles Morales spinoff, and I was super excited. And I saw the little blurb say like, this makes the first two iterations inferior. I was like, how's that possible?
Right.
Damn, does it make it inferior? Like, this is the one that I'm going to happily go back and play, because I always get that itch to go back and play Spider-Man.
Right.
Because I'm like, I just love web slinging around. This one, the improvements on everything in terms of narrative and gameplay, traversal, and just the characters in the game, it just makes them so much more enjoyable.
Right.
Everything.
Right.
Across the board.
I agree. I totally agree with you. Very few games I feel like this generation, and just based on, I've played most of the titles that have come out, or at least I dipped a finger in the pool, so to speak, and playing everything. This truly feels like a next-gen kind of game when you really get down to it. And I'm not talking about graphically. We've had some very graphically impressive games this year, like the God of War series, and among other things. Games that just like you go like, wow, I'm playing this. This is in my hands. Spider-Man definitely has that, especially with its like ray tracing and stuff like that we see throughout the buildings. But like you said, the improvements as far as like the loading screens, the traversal in this game is ridiculously impressive, where if you want to quick travel somewhere, you literally just pick a spot on the map and you go there. And I think that's incredibly impressive.
I didn't even use the fast travel.
I know, and you don't really want to, but if you need to, seconds, literally seconds. And I like how it splits between two protagonists. Another game that did this was the most recent Grand Theft Auto game, where they kind of shifted perspectives with different characters. And I like that a lot. I think that added a lot to this game. The one thing I'll say, and I guess that goes maybe more into some of the gameplay aspects. I don't know about you. I had a few performance issues here and there, and I guess that's just something to make people aware of. I think it'll depend. I played this earlier on release, so maybe it's been stuff that's been patched. I had one solid crash when I played the game. I don't know if you had any kind of issues like that. And I got stuck like once or twice in the environment from swinging, and I actually had to restart my save file. Actually, I had to get back out of the game and go back in. I actually got stuck.
I don't know if I had any game crashes. The only one I had a couple things. There was like I think I was doing one of the hunter blinds
Okay.
and an enemy got stuck behind a wall
Hmm.
and I could not finish the hunter blind
I had
because he was
something
stuck
similar to
behind the
that
wall.
too. I had that in the Coney Island level. Something happened where
Okay.
someone got stuck behind something in the Coney Island area, and I couldn't
Yeah.
get to him, and I had to like jump over. It was like it wasn't supposed to happen that way. You could definitely tell it
Right.
was an issue.
Yeah, so that had to restart. I don't know if it's sometimes it felt like the combat wasn't as responsive for some reason.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, maybe it was something with the combos because I think the issue is that like stuff moves and happens so fast
Right.
in the game that maybe the game just doesn't pick up on on my movements itself.
And the visuals, I'll kind of give the visuals a little. They're kind of interfering a little bit, I think, with some of the gameplay. I know we talked about this when we played the most recent Final Fantasy, where there's so much particle effects, everything's flying
Yeah.
in the air, and I can't see what's
Yeah.
going on. Spider-Man does suffer a bit from that, I think, especially when you're playing as Miles, where some of the electricity is shooting all over the place, and I'm trying to do a combo or connect a chain, and I kind of quite can't see where I am, and it's not necessarily the camera's fault. It's more again, it's everything's performing correctly. It's just too much on screen. I'm throwing too much
Right.
at me.
I think that this is all like probably just first few weeks release
Yeah.
bugs and stuff. So it's probably because I know recently a patch came out for the game, so who knows what that put to fixed on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, for the most part, that's probably the biggest issues that I had too, where I did see when I was using some of the gadgets and whatnot, I'd be shooting out all my gadgets, and all of a sudden the screen would all kind of
Right.
occur, and like, oh damn, how did I end up over here? Or I was targeting the wrong enemy, or
Right.
I was grabbing this trash can over here rather than the enemy, and I was like, all right, this is not what I wanted to do.
Right, and I think these are all like nitpicks. I wouldn't say there was anything
Yeah,
too
I
game
think
breaking.
that's
It
what
was
it
kind of
comes down
fun. It was
to.
kind of more funny than anything else at this point. Like, oh, like you said, a trash can just got swung out of here. That's not what I was trying to do at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it interfered too much with anything. And then I know a lot of YouTubers out there were having some really early crashes. I did see a lot of performance issues. I didn't see it like that. Again, I had
I
one
definitely
crash.
didn't have anything that severe.
I would argue I've had more crashes in some other more well-known games or other well-known games than I did with this, and it didn't take away my enjoyment. It's like, oh shit, a crash. Okay, I'll restart. Not a huge deal. Again, it wasn't anything too immersively game-breaking in my opinion. The only I'll talk about two things and then we'll go into the story because I think that's where a lot of people will be coming to this for. One thing I think they did change, which I did enjoy, I think the side missions actually mattered a bit more to me in this. They didn't feel so much as like just chores to be done. I know some of the other, especially the Spider-Man 1 game, I think they were more like chore-centric style missions. Would you agree with that, Adam? I think this one had more substance to what I was playing. Not that the other ones are terrible. I think Miles Morales fixed a lot of that too. But this one, they felt like they mattered to the story overall, the missions. They tied into it at least.
Yeah, I think I mean there's obviously like chore missions, if you will,
There's your
where
beat 'em ups, you beat up these characters in the area, and they do
And-
wear thin, I think, a little bit. Towards
the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man missions where you got to go, help this elderly woman out because she's got a creature in her backyard.
That was funny, actually. I actually enjoyed that one.
I thought that one was funny too, but it's like it
right.
took me out of the moment.
Yeah, especially when you're wearing a symbiote suit and you're supposed to be like doing whatever, right?
Exactly. But the actual like real side missions, the one with Wraith, I think her name was.
Wraith.
That mission, and the fact that it got to a point where it took the events of the actual story and tied it all together.
Right.
I was like, this mission's amazing.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic side story, and it makes me want more. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in terms of a sequel or DLC or something, but now I'm like, oh well, something's
it's funny you bring that up though, because that's one of them, and there's another one. They specifically loop in 2 other characters that really don't have a payoff in this game, so I'm assuming that's what we're going to get in the future. Spoilers from this point. Don't know what to tell you. You know, it's all over online. I mean, most of the game was spoiled for me, unfortunately. So I'm letting you know now. We got some spoilers going on. The one big thing is we are teased at Carnage. We find out that the leader of the Fire Group is Cletus Cassidy, which I thought that was a fun reveal, even if it didn't feel like a huge payoff. It was still a fun payoff nonetheless. So the symbiotes kind of carried on even post game after this. And then the Chameleon, I thought was a fun little character to introduce, being Kraven's brother, or half brother, I should say. That's a fun reveal if you're not familiar with it. Most comic book fans probably do know that, but it's still a fun reveal nonetheless. And again, they don't have payoffs in this game, but it's exciting to see that they're building this universe, because I think Insomniac has done a really good job with that over the course of these couple Spider-Man games, where they're building a very interesting Spider-Man universe. I would argue slightly more interesting than the movies that we've gotten, I think, from Spider-Man at this point.
There's so many things that were left open. I mean, if you want me to go into a deep dive of everything that's left open, but I want to know more.
Yes.
And it's to the point where I don't know if it's going to come as a DLC or as a third game. I think personally, I don't know, because I was thinking about this the other day, and I was wondering maybe they'll do especially with the ending, maybe they'll do another Miles Morales-esque side game.
That would be interesting. I'd be down for that.
I think that would come out with, the extra character that they teased at the very end of the game.
Right.
Or just do another third game.
Okay. Yeah. No, I could see that for sure. I think there's quite a lot of options that they have. I'm assuming DLC will be the path, at least for 1 or 2 expansions, I believe, since this is like a main Spider-Man game. So I could see like 2 DLCs and maybe a side game. It depends. You know, I don't know.
I could see that.
I don't know.
I can see that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I think the future's open and the future's exciting for what they're going to do. The big thing, I guess we'll dive into this, is really the story here. That's kind of what most of you are here for. So if you're familiar with Spider-Man lore, I would argue it's a story you've heard before. Would you agree, Adam? I think there's not too much in the way of surprise, maybe, with the way Peter acquires the symbiote. Like they do things differently and they make it interesting, but overall it's still the same, Night of the Symbiote kind of storyline where Peter Parker gets the symbiote, it comes off him, becomes Venom. I think it's kind of predictable as far as that's concerned. Maybe.
Yes.
Not in a bad. I'm so sorry. This isn't a bad way. I'm just saying if you're familiar with the story of Venom, it is predictable as far as that's concerned. However, how they get to these points, and including Miles Morales, makes it incredibly more interesting and more fun for me along the way.
I
would say.
Agree with that. Yes, because there's so much that, I don't know, the entire game, I was kind of on the edge of there's a point where I was on the edge of my seat because I was like, I don't know how any of this is going to pan out.
Right.
Like, there's so many different things that occur that have not happened before.
Right.
And that's what makes this universe, like this game universe, so much more enjoyable. It's because so much happens.
Right. And then myself, having read so many different versions of the Spider-Man story, from the 90s even the animated 90s Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, all these different versions of Spider-Man, I see they borrowed from everywhere, and that's what Insomniac likes to do, and that's what you should do. Why not not borrow from a bunch of different stories and make something new? I like the idea of introducing Harry Osborn, which was a tease at the last game, and then we have him kind of come in and he's like, hey, I'm feeling good, and then you find out that he has the symbiote attached to him. And what do they give us without calling it that? They give us Agent Venom, essentially, at that point, which I thought was very cool, very different. I didn't expect that, and I really like that team up. That's something I didn't. Again, I kind of know what's going to happen, right? We know Peter's going to get the symbiote. Something's going to happen along the way. But we've
already seen that in the trailers,
right? But the fact is that they gave us something new that way, where it was Harry had the symbiote and he was helping Spider-Man. They were teaming up. Like you see this really great friendship evolve, which I feel like the movies, even themselves, if we're comparing it to the movies, just because that's our specialty, right? Our movies are the specialty. If we're comparing it to that, I never really got that, right? I never really got that really strong friendship that I really wanted to see. And it's so strong here, and you get so much time with it when you're helping, Harry's teaming up with you when you have to go save Tombstone, from the facility, from Craven's
Mm-hmm.
facility, and you see them like working together and like joking around together, but you could tell like the happiness that's within Peter of like he has someone that he can finally work with, and Harry being with his friend and being fully open with one another. That's really special. I really like that, and that was a really nice twist that I don't remember Spider-Man ever quite nailing like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's because of the, the world building that Insomniac did, especially with the first mission with Harry
Right.
going on that bike ride and getting that flashback scene going back to the high school.
Right, and it's so
Um,
simple, but it's an emotional scene. And I know some people will be like, "Oh, why am I playing a high school scene where I'm running through a high school?" But I like that kind of stuff. I like that personally in my video games. The more you try to immerse me in your story, I think that's fun to me. In my
I know,
opinion.
I get that it breaks the
It breaks
know,
the gameplay loop.
it
does.
does.
Yeah.
It does. I get it. I understand. But from my perspective,
Mhm.
it made me emotionally attached to Harry and Peter. It resonated so much harder when things happened to Harry that, and I think that's where the emotional connection comes to Peter, especially when he's wearing the symbiote suit and,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he starts turning and whatnot, and he starts caring more about himself than other people, including Miles. And I think that's the relationship, like all that kind of everybody interacting together, all the interactions that they all had. It just makes it so much
And it's
more.
interesting because it's more, you see it more of a trauma for Peter, which I don't know if I can
Yeah.
say I've seen that. I've seen like the one I always equate this to, and it's just my personal experience, is the 90s animated Spider-Man series, the cartoon series. That's kind of like the most famous, my generation's probably most familiar with, is seen it a million times. Peter he's like, "Oh, I'm a big bad guy, tough guy now. I got a symbiote. No one can hurt me." Yeah, that's kind of in here, but it's more about the trauma of where I have to do this myself. No one can help me. I'm only by myself. I'm the only one that can do this. And the symbiote just really feeds on that aggression and that anger that he has
Be
to
a
be.
better
I have
Spider-Man.
to be the best Spider-Man, the
Yeah.
superior Spider-Man. Ooh, I wish. No, we didn't get that. I wish. Maybe someday. But yeah, no, but I was excited by that, and I think they did a really phenomenal job. And the fact that Miles is the only one that can tear him out of this, when you have that epic fight scene where you're fighting Peter in the scene, you're trying to rip off the symbiote, and even the controls. I know it's quick time events, and I know how people feel about that. I understand. I do. I like it though, because again, it's about how you're telling the story, and I think that's enjoyable for me as someone who's just picking up this game to play. I'm having a good time where I'm trying to rip off the symbiote suit. I feel the haptic feedback in the controller as I'm trying to pull it off of me, and I feel it clinging to me. Oh man, that's a scene. I tell you, I think they did a really great job with that.
That boss battle was fantastic. I mean, most of the boss battles in the game were great, but that one,
And they're tougher. I
specifically.
would argue they're a little tougher.
Yeah,
Craven was a tougher boss battle than I remember any of the other ones being in the past two games that I've played.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the game posed enough of a challenge to where it would have me go back and rethink my strategies.
Yeah.
Go upgrade a gadget or something that I would be able to use, or make sure I land this combo specifically, or dodge this this way or something like that. So I enjoy that it kind of tests me.
Right, and I think we could sidebar real quick, and then we'll finish up the rest of the story here. So mechanically, not too much in this game has changed, I would argue. I think a lot of the combat is still the same. You still have your dodging. You see your spider sense triggers. You still dodge. You have your combos, your air combos. They just kind of finite and fine-tuned everything, I would argue. I think everything feels a lot tighter, a lot more responsive. The web swinging, I think, is definitely a lot stronger in this game, feels a lot tighter. There's two things that they added, and I'm curious to see what you thought. One of them I liked, and the other one I liked, but I'm mixed on. And you probably might know what the one is. But the first one that I personally didn't enjoy, I didn't like the parry system in this game. I kind of found that not necessary, I think, a lot of the times. I know you want to introduce a new mechanic to these characters, and you want to give us like something new to play with. My two issues with it is, again, first of all, I just think it's not necessary. But the second one, I really didn't feel clear when I was supposed to parry characters versus dodging characters. Maybe they could have implemented some other form of dodging of some kind, maybe like a more intriguing version of that. But just like shoving them away, I didn't feel like it was necessary. I just felt like they wanted to add a new mechanic for the sake of a new mechanic in this game.
And I felt like unless the parry window was just like that finite,
right?
I think that's where the game really, because I'm like, I parried that guy. What are you
Right.
talking
And I
about?
found myself just jumping out of the way. Now, I would just hit X. It was so much easier just to jump than it would be to parry. Even though parrying, clearly they want you to parry because you get a very significant bonus when you parry things. But if you don't, it was easier, and I felt like that felt more comfortable to me. And again, it just felt like a useless tacked on mechanic, in my opinion. I would have taken away that. I don't think that was necessary.
Yeah, because that wasn't in the first game at all, right?
No, there was a brand new one, and I felt it right away because I'm like, you're just adding this to add something. I didn't feel like they really added anything.
That is what that
unique.
feels like, yeah.
That was my only, again, gameplay wise. Otherwise, I think everything's tight. I think everything's fantastic. I just think that one thing, you didn't really need it. But again, I understand you got to add something new to the table. If you're giving us exactly what we played before, well, then why? Well, I mean, I don't have an issue with that necessarily, but
I just, I like more Spider-Man.
Yeah, some people might not like that. So, all right, touche, fair enough. Second thing, web wings were introduced in this game. I have a love-hate with this, okay? I understand why it's in the game. I think it works incredibly well.
Okay.
I think but it also doesn't feel like Spider-Man. Sometimes I think that's some of the issue. I would find myself just kind of flying around the city more so than I was web swinging, and maybe it was just a choice out of convenience, but it just felt better just to kind of fly around and get from point A to point B when I needed to. And again, that's my choice. I'm choosing to use my web wings and kind of zoom all over the city. But at that point, I just felt like another superhero. I didn't feel so much like Spider-Man some of the time.
I get that. That makes sense. I mean, but like I said, I never used the fast travel.
Right.
I only did the web swinging or the web wings. I literally never used the fast travel. Right. So, but I would, switch on and off between the two, because I still liked doing, the flips and stuff as Spider-Man. So,
right.
I guess it's, at that point,
you could say it's a Kevin problem. It is.
It's a Kevin problem.
It's a Kevin problem.
The web wings are fantastic.
No, they are though. And you know what? I have to tell you, this makes me very excited for other superhero games in the future, because we've always had that conversation where, well, how's Superman going to fly in the city? There you go. Just freaking did it. It's possible to make it kind of work out. Maybe not necessarily that way, but you can make, if Spider-Man can fly around the city, why the hell can't Superman fly around the city with ease? Because it can be done. Okay, guys?
With the speed that you would pick up,
yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind that he wouldn't be able to do that.
It was fun, but I think you can argue, though, I think you can just kind of fly around without swinging. But again, I think that's an option that you're given, and what you choose to do with that. I personally, I guess, just kind of grabbed more to the flying than I did the swinging, and that's, again, more of a Kevin problem, but just throwing it out there, just a discussion point. But let's get back on track here. Back onto the story. Venom is by far the best incarnation of Venom I think we've gotten to date, I would argue. Tom Hardy Venom, get the hell out of here. Topher Grace Venom, you have not had a chance. I am so sorry. This Venom by far rules. Out of all the things that were spoiled for me, I thought I heard you played as Venom, but I wasn't too sure. You do play as Venom. It was the greatest moment of my life, getting to just run through Oscorp.
I did not know that.
People. So you didn't, but I did. But even though I did not care. Oh my God, that sequence of blazing through Oscorp, ripping people apart, fighting Craven in the middle of a city, chomping at his neck, and like, we are Venom, and like, it was perfect. Why can't Sony?
Cool.
So why can't Sony do something like that? I don't understand, but apparently Insomniac is able to figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Insomniac should just make the movies from now on.
Seriously. But not even that. Venom is given a fantastic scene with Harry where I like how we see Venom as a manipulative character. I think that's very interesting. You see Harry kind of go to his mother's grave, and he's like talking about healing the world is like the big thing. He wants to reunite with Peter and, make the Emily May Foundation and heal the world and, fix all the problems in the world. That was like always their dreams as, nerdy science students, was that to fix the world. I like that. I know it's a little corny, but it's okay. I think it's good. And the fact that Venom manipulates that so well, and that scene is so well done where you can kind of see both sides of it. Like Venom's like, we'll just turn them all into symbiotes and everyone will be healed and everyone will be fine. And like, yeah, that's totally evil. But if you're like mourning and you're grieving and you're in this kind of pain, kind of makes sense, right? I mean, Venom kind of like turned the story a little bit there for Harry.
Yeah, it just gives that haunting feeling, having this, this all-knowing, or this, I guess, mass, this villain mass is just present.
the
it gives such
tendrils
a
going along the planet. You just see the Earth, and you see all this symbiote wrap around the planet just like that. Like, oh,
yeah.
it's beautiful.
The scene where Harry is by his mother's grave is
So
just
good.
it was so intense. Like hearing her voice morph
Yeah.
into Venom's. It was so cool, so
No,
cool.
and they captured Venom so well. I'm sorry. This
Yeah.
is the best. It is the best interpretation of Venom I've seen in quite a long time. I have to tell you. I think they did a phenomenal job. Just like the way he looks, the way he moves, he feels like a hulking beast. The only critique I maybe have is there wasn't enough Venom. I think that's maybe
Yeah.
an argument. So the story, and there's another problem with the story, and I don't know. Maybe the audience has caught on to this, or maybe they haven't. Where the hell's Miles Morales? That's a little bit of a problem for me in this story, where Miles has a very good story for himself, I think, in this movie. I think it is an excellent story of him wanting to become the Spider-Man that he needs to become for the city. The problem is Peter's story is so much significantly more interesting, in my opinion, than I think Miles Morales' story is. It feels like Peter is the main character and Miles Morales is the side character. What do you think, Adam? Same kind of feeling? Not really?
Yeah, I get that. I often found myself playing more as Peter.
And what were you more excited to play at the end of the day? Peter's story, probably, to see what happened
Yeah,
next.
because it's like I wanted to know what
Yeah.
It seemed like, and it's not like who I liked more. It just
Right.
seemed like that's what the game forced me to do because it's like Peter was the one that was the catalyst for the
Yes.
story to continue.
Now,
It's
do
like
you think
Peter's missions.
right now? Do you think that was a disservice a bit to Miles, where he was kind of like second fiddle throughout a lot of this adventure? Because by the end of the day, it's fine. Like I understand like the ushering in of the new Spider, and that's kind of what this is at the end of the day. And we'll talk a little bit our feelings on thoughts on that. But it ultimately is the passing of the torch, kind of to the new Spider-Man for the city. Do you think the game felt justified doing that by the end when we I feel like we didn't have as much time with Miles as I maybe would have wanted. I mean, I know his story is it's decently done. I think you get to see him overcome the death of his father, making amends with the villain that killed his father and like that. But it always felt just so much of a second fiddle in the grand scheme of things in the story.
Yeah, I loved everything with
I
Miles.
did
I
too.
really did.
Right.
I really did. And if anything, that's just I wanted more with it.
Right.
But like I said, it felt like okay, now that Miles's bit is done, let's get back to Peter because
Right.
he's the
It's
one.
like,
This is the one that's going to continue it.
right. And it's like Miles, like, oh, I'm saving items that belong in a museum. And then Spider-Man, oh, I'm battling symbiotes and saving, there's kind of
Yeah,
a weird contrast there a little bit sometimes, I think, narratively, as far as what you're playing.
yeah. If anything, it just made me want more, and I think that it is fitting that this was his passing of the torch, especially because he's been through it
Right.
at this point.
And it's again, it's just interesting. I wonder if they could have done a little bit more with Miles, maybe integrated him a little bit more into the symbiote story. I know there was like leaked concept art that Miles was supposed to wear the symbiote at some point,
I
and
saw that.
that was kind of axed from this game. What would that have looked like? I don't know. That could have been interesting though. I think there could have been maybe a little bit of something there. Maybe we played as symbiote Miles of some kind or something. I'm not too sure because he went through a lot of things similar or, a little bit different than Peter, but their stories connected very well overall. Again, the story is the hook here, and I think it does a phenomenal job. I just wish Miles had a little bit more to do with Peter's story directly, I think, than feeling like the guest character in his own game.
Yeah, I kept thinking like, all right, where's Miles? If any, like this should be like a situation like when Peter's going through all these different, occurrences. I'm like, what's Miles doing right now?
Right.
I mean, I get that, he's got his own life to live and whatnot, but to a certain extent.
Right. And then he doesn't really show up until the end of the game when you're finally like the symbiote shit's hit the fan literally and the city's covered with symbiotes, which is a really cool thing. I think that's a really neat idea. It was fun, like going across the city and seeing all these citizens turned into symbiote monsters, even if it was a little quick and kind of unclear how all that happened. There's a lot of unclear things that happened towards the end of this game, but that being one of them. But I think it's really cool, and it's nice to see Miles that's when he kind of finally got embroiled in the story. But by the time we get that going, the game's kind of over. And I think there is a little bit to be said about the length here with that. I think the length was a little bit short, in my opinion. I think we could have gotten a little bit more.
Yeah,
maybe
I
the
do wish
story.
that there was more interactions between Peter and Miles, because I mean, most of the interactions we got were them on, the phone.
Right, and then a lot of it could have been like Harry and Miles do have a relationship somewhat, and that kind of does
Right.
come up a little bit here and there through the dialogue that they have. Why not give us some more scenes like that? Like let Miles and Harry work together, and maybe that's where that jealousy comes through a little bit more. Like, who are
Right.
you? You're kind of like the new guy. You're coming up here, showing up, and then Harry's jealous of Miles. Like, oh, he's spending all his time with you. He's hanging out with you. Like that could have been a really fun dynamic to play with, but unfortunately,
Mhm.
they either they didn't have time or they weren't interested. I'm not too sure what was there. Why that was missing necessarily.
It just makes me more interested as to what's to come,
Yeah.
honestly, especially now that Miles is going to be, the main Spider-Man, which I'm excited to see.
Yeah, and that's again, like we said, by the time we get to the end of the game, ultimately Peter kind of retires everything. Actually, before that, Anti-Venom's introduced in this.
So cool.
It was cool. It was okay. I mean, I don't know, unless you kind of know what Anti-Venom is. I bet some people were probably super confused. Like, oh, he has an Anti-Venom now that he can just kind of be like, don't touch me, Venom.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know
Yeah.
what? Even
The
like to
movie
go
kinda,
back to what we were
the
saying,
game kind of quickly goes around and like, oh yeah, you have a power that hurts the symbiotes now. Oh, cool. Okay.
but yeah, that even to go back to what we were just saying about Miles, it
Yeah.
made me want to play as Peter more because I'm like, okay, in my head, Peter is going to be the one that's going to have, like, I get a damage boost on the symbiotes.
Right.
Why would I go back to play as Miles?
Right, and then maybe Miles would have benefited. Logically, maybe Miles should have had some kind of anti-venom power because he already had the electricity power. I mean, I really
Right.
know it's kind of over. I mean, Miles technically is a little more overpowered than Peter as far as gameplay
Right.
wise until you get that power bump towards the end. Then
Agreed.
it's like, okay. But I don't know. I think he would have benefited maybe story wise, maybe a little more from that. Like he had the
Mhm.
anti-venom
I
because it
think
was
so.
something with his powers and whatnot. I think that would have been a little more interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, but anyway, by the time we get to the end of this game, it is the passing of the torch. Peter finds happiness in the fact he can kind of somewhat retire. It's not like a full blown I'm retiring from being Spider-Man, but it's more of I'm taking a break. I have things I have to focus on. Miles, you got this, man. You got this. You go out there and you be the best Spider-Man. I'll tell you first off, I don't really like the new costume that much. I wasn't really a huge fan of the new Miles costume that we got. I don't know about you, Adam.
I got a couple gripes with it.
I didn't like the hair sticking out. I feel
Um,
like that's like a dead giveaway for someone who's Spider-Man. So if I take your mask
That's
off,
a good point.
you can't. Oh, you have the same haircut as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not super
Um,
obvious. I don't know. I think the other one's so iconic, especially because of the Into the Spider-Verse and everything, that I feel like it. I don't know. I feel like it was a necessary change.
I think I got a couple problems. Number one is the hair sticking out. It just doesn't make any sense.
No.
Number two is that he says, I think it's about time for a Miles Morales original. I'm like, what happened to during his game?
Yeah.
That was the suit that he made there. That was a Miles Morales original.
Right, and I like
What
that.
the hell is wrong with that?
Apparently, it's not good enough.
And then the third thing is that you can buy it, the whole suit was
Yeah.
literally just an ad for Adidas. You could buy that whole suit on Adidas.
Wow, I did not know that. Now I hate it even more. Thanks a lot.
Like you could, I'll send it to you later.
Yeah,
There's
you
a
need to send
shirt, there's the pants, and there's the shoes. You could literally buy the entire thing on Adidas. And it's like, did Adidas
Right.
sponsor them or something? So they could be like, yeah, we'll pay you this, but you got to put this costume in there.
Well, apparently Wheaties did because they were selling Wheaties boxes for Spider-Man cereal at
Yeah.
astronomical prices for
Yep.
a cereal box. Okay, that's what I want on my Wheaties box. Spider-Man PS5 characters, fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't personally a huge fan of it, but I do like the passing of the torch. I'm gonna feel a little sad. I mean, hopefully Peter's still involved in the games because
I'm sure he will be.
he's my Spider-Man, but I understand Miles Morales like taking over. He's kind of become more popular, and it's time for a little bit of a change. And I understand the direction Insomniacs kind of going with the series. I don't necessarily hate it. My only issue with Spider-Man Miles Morales, I think there's always two things, right? The first thing is I always say Spider-Man Miles Morales. I never say Spider-Man, referring
Yeah.
to Miles Morales. I've never been able to say that yet. So maybe that'll come with time. Maybe there'll be a point where we can say that. Also, the other problem is I've never had a Miles Morales centric villain yet. I can't say
That's a good point.
any of the villains that we've seen are all Peter Parker Spider-Man villains. Even the Prowler, his own uncle, is a Peter Parker Spider-Man villain. I'm waiting for a really good Miles Morales villain. something original, something fun, something that stands up to that rogues gallery, because Spider-Man has such a strong rogues gallery, on par with the likes of Batman and Superman and all them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it because anytime anybody says Spider-Man, I immediately think Peter Parker because he's just been around for so long. Like
Right.
that, him and his red and blue suit. Those are the only ones that everybody just always thinks about.
Right.
But I did see a funny post a couple weeks ago that was like Doc Ock, Green Goblin, somebody else. I think maybe Scorpion or something like that, and they were like, oh, we have a problem with you, Spider-Man. And it was cuts to Miles, and he's like, I don't even know who any of you are.
Right. It's true. And it kind of feels like that because those aren't his villains. They're so cemented with the Peter Parker Spider-Man. It's just like, so you're just like inheriting all his villains. So like if someone takes over for Batman, they just take over all of Batman's villains kind of thing. I guess that's what kind of happens. Like you don't get your own. I don't know. I'm not saying that he needs his own, but they should. Like again, a great hero always has some great villains to accompany them, and especially if we are setting up Green Goblin, which the ending of this game, we'll talk about that real quick, and then I promise we're gonna wrap up. The end here is we get teased Green Goblin. Norman Osborn finds out that Spider-Man hurt his son, and he's very upset by it, and he wants revenge on Spider-Man. He's like, go get the G serum, which it's green, and he's wearing a green suit, and, I think we could probably figure out what's going to happen from there. I kind of want Peter to fight that villain. I don't know if I want Miles to go head-to-head with the Green Goblin. That's the battle that I want, so I'm really hoping we're going to go that direction.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels weird.
Thematically, at least, I want it.
Yes. Yes. I don't know. It just feels weird like the post that I saw. It hits it right on the right on the head there. Like they got nothing against Miles.
Right. There's nothing. And then this is just such a personal fight that his son's in a coma and he's angry and he's just I'm assuming he's going to be a big goblin monster. I think they're going to go Ultimate Spider-Man route.
Oh, you think they're going to go that route?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be. I would assume.
Interesting.
Let's look on this video in the future and come back and you can comment then like, you were wrong, you idiot. You don't know what you were talking about. I don't know. I could see the ultimate version of Green Goblin. It's going to be more interesting for a video game. Maybe it doesn't start off that way, but it turns into that. I think that's something that could happen. That's one thing. And then we also had a Doc Ock little teaser at the end, which again, no issues with Miles Morales. Still issues with Peter Parker, like Adam said. I'm putting together a team in my little book over here. I'm writing the final chapter. At first I got real excited because I thought it was going to be a superior Spider-Man tease of some kind where I could do it better or something like that. But that wasn't the case. I think it's just a Sinister Six tease. I'm assuming that's kind of what they're going on, even though most of the Sinister Six is dead. Yeah, which that was crazy. We didn't talk about that. A lot of people got killed in this game.
Yeah, they sure did.
There's like, oh, Scorpion, you like that guy? You know who he is? Dead.
Yep.
Like, oh,
he's dead.
Kraven, dead. Oh, okay. Even
Vulture,
Midway,
he's dead.
Yeah, Vulture. Yeah, Vulture died off screen.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a brave choice. I hope bold choice, Cotton. Hope it pays off. Kind of deals right there. I really do. Then the last tease. There's a new character that's introduced now. Adam, you were the one who was kind of very excited about this tease.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be honest, I wasn't super blown away. Why don't you explain to the people at home what the final tease is of this game?
Well, the final tease is that Miles and his mother, they finally have, I guess, agreed to having this date or whatever.
I was gonna die on a side note. I swear I thought it was gonna be fucking Norman Osborn was gonna come in the
That's
door.
what I thought.
I was gonna lose my shit. I was gonna be like, hey there, nice to meet you, Miles.
I was like, it's either gonna be Norman or she's gonna be dating like Uncle Aaron or something now. I was like, oh my gosh.
Too. Right.
Yeah.
But no, it was some guy.
It's yeah, I don't remember the guy's name, but his, I guess, daughter is Cindy Moon, which is Silk.
Right.
Which I'm super excited to see because it's like we don't have any Silk anything. At first I thought maybe it was going to be Gwen. I did think it might have been Gwen.
That's what I was hoping
of how popular she was going to be. But after seeing Silk, because Silk hasn't had any movie representation whatsoever.
Right.
So I think it's a really cool turn, and I'm very excited to see. Maybe we'll get plays 3 Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3. But who knows?
That could be cool. And even maybe a Venom tease, because at the end of this game, Venom is decidedly killed off pretty affirmatively. But the symbiotes, they never really die, and Carnage kind of got away. Cletus kind of left with a symbiote.
If there was a canister for Carnage, who knows? There's another canister.
There's got to be,
somewhere.
right? There's got to be, or maybe a toxin. That's a deep cut for all you people out there. Toxin, one of my favorite one series characters that never got any other representation. That could be cool. I think I would be surprised. There was a comment recently that they used 10% of the Venom dialogue that was recorded for the actual game. So that leads me to believe I don't think we've seen the end of Venom. I think he's far too popular of a character and too enjoyable of a character. He has his own movie series.
Maybe
So
Venom will get his own spin-off game next year or something.
I would like that. I think
crazy.
that'd be fun. It'd be a fun mechanic, and I think you could do more with the gimmick than just what they even did there. Because it's fun to play as a powerhouse. We don't normally get to play as that kind of character,
Right.
And I think that could be fun. But Silk is interesting. It didn't do much for me. I'm not really too familiar with Silk. Maybe that's just from my lapse in reading, I think. But I thought it was going to be Gwen too. But this is good. I'm good with another female representation of Spider-Man. Some kind of like adding to the Spider family. I think it could be good for the series. And if anything, why do I have a reason not to trust Insomniac at this point? I really don't. I think they've crafted a brilliant story, and I think it's about that time, Adam, we put a score on this one. I'm going to give Spider-Man 2 a 10 out of 10.
You're not yourself.
You want to join us?
He's here.
Lock down the whole building!
I know I can snap him out of this!
We can fight this together!
Even with my little gripes about the story and, some of the gameplay, I wasn't a huge fan of parrying, and I clearly have an issue with web wings. That's literally narrowed down to me.
Problem.
Yeah, it's a Kevin problem. I had a freaking phenomenal time with this game, man. I did not want to put it down. Once I got going into it, it was clear that this was a game specifically made for me to enjoy the story, to feel enthralled in it. The side missions were gone. I played everything from beginning to end, and not too many games like this, at least for my taste, come along where I can't put it down, and Spider-Man was clearly one of them. It's a fantastic game. I definitely recommend you play all the games in the series. There's really no reason not to at this point, but Spider-Man 2 is phenomenal. I think it's an achievement, and Insomniac should be very proud of what they accomplished, because clearly Sony's film division can't accomplish the same thing with just Venom and Morbius movies, and Disney's having a little bit of a hard time even with their Spider-Man series without introducing 10 different Spider-Men into it. So obviously Insomniac's got the formula down. So I'm very impressed, very glad of what was made here, and I think this will be a classic for people. Adam, you're the last one. What's your score, man?
I'm going to give Spider-Man 2 a 10 out of 10.
Will one of you finally give me what I desire? Yes, we will.
I had that score solidified after I beat it. I thought the game was fantastic. I loved every minute of it, and I would absolutely play more of that game if there's DLC, a third one, or even just a replay of it, because I had such a good time with it.
Yeah, and again, I think Insomniac, if they just listen to some of the critical output that's come from this game, some of the critiques, there's no reason why they can't make it even better than it already is, because even with these issues, they're not game breakers by any means for me. They're not deal breakers in me wanting to participate in the game. If anything, it's just, it's kind of just circumstance, right? I'll get through it and push through, and it's a fun game. It's not even that terrible. I wish all games didn't have this bad. I played quite a few things recently where I'm like, why am I playing this and pushing through it? But Spider-Man, I never felt like that. I was just like, man, I can't wait to see what happens next. And I'm glad something like this can exist.
And it was
Spider-Man.
short enough to
Right.
where it didn't feel like it was in a total, overhaul, or I had to dedicate so much time
Right.
to it. So I think that's a perfect game. It was excellent.
If anything, maybe a little bit longer in length. I think the story could have been fleshed out a little bit better, especially
I
maybe
agree with that.
on the Miles end. But again, I think those are critiques, because at the end of the day, we're talking about it right now, and we're talking about how much we loved it. So clearly they got the balance right, even if it's not the perfect balance. It's pretty damn close. And being a 10 out of 10, I know that's, in our opinion, I think that's just how we feel personally about it. You might feel differently as far as, you know, what you experience. But I think it's 10 out of 10 material. It's incredibly enjoyable. It's outstanding. It runs like it's supposed to for the most part. I think even patches have fixed most of the problems out of this game. It's fun. It's a great time, and I highly recommend it. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Did you enjoy Spider-Man 2 as much as the other previous entries in the series? Is this your favorite Spider-Man game? Spider-Man's had a long list of games. I can tell you back from my PS1 days of playing the Amazing Spider-Man on PS1, swinging around on ropes that attach to the sky and just swinging around. That was my original Spider-Man. Let me know yours in the comments below, what you guys think. And also, do you like game reviews on this channel? We tried something a little bit different. It's not normally something in our wheelhouse. Would you like to see more? Even some shorts maybe on video games? Let us know what you guys think. I'm very curious to hear. But I want to thank you all for joining us for this very special episode of the Real Review Game Edition. My name's Kevin. That guy over there, he's Adam. We're the Real Movie Guys doing game reviews. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. We'll catch you next time.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.